The Supreme Court listened to arguments this week on Michigan's ban on affirmative action. All right, so Stephen, let me ask you, as our resident Supreme Court expert.
And U of M graduate.
And U of M graduate. How is it shaping up in the court, do you think, looking at this decision?
I don't think there's any question the court will uphold Michigan's right to do what it did and say, you know, we don't want to have race-conscious policies in admissions. I think that's bad policy, and I disagree with it, but I don't think there's anything unconstitutional about it, and I think the plaintiffs here, or the respondents in this case, are pitting their hopes on Anthony Kennedy wrongly. Justice Kennedy is a swing vote, but he sees affirmative action. If you go back and read his former opinions, he sees affirmative action as a form of discrimination, not anti-discrimination. So you've got a real mismatch there.
And I don't think the core issue is whether affirmative action is good or bad. It's the people's right to make this kind of policy. And I think the court will uphold that. And the question becomes, what do institutions like the University of Michigan do to accomplish the goals without having the affirmative action
of getting a more diverse student body?
And other states have dealt with this, other universities have dealt with this, and they've done things that the U of M haven't done. And I think they're going to have to look at other solutions to this.
What solutions are you talking about?
Well, other states have, for example, ended legacy enrollments for their graduates, so that if you went to U of M, your kid gets an edge in getting in the door. Other states have done affirmative action based on economics rather than race, which is perfectly acceptable under this past Supreme Court rulings. Other states like Texas have taken the top graduates from every high school and let them in. Some combination of that, or one choice, would help U of M better diversify its campus.
Well, you could try some of those, and some of them are better than others. Some of them produce better results than others. The 10% plans, I think, are absurd because they fly in the face of the kind of individualized consideration the court said you should be giving to every student anyway. But I also want to make it clear that I think it's absurd that we want to have this argument about eliminating racial considerations just in higher ed and pretend that there's color blindness everywhere else, and so that it belongs there. Of course, this is not a colorblind society. There's a lot of things that happen still because of the legacy of the awful racial discrimination that used to be part of the law and the Constitution in this country. We got to deal with that, I think, in a much more honest way than saying, well, let's just have race-neutral policies only at the point where we're talking about who gets opportunity and who doesn't.
But other states that don't have the affirmative action policies, who put bans in place, have managed to get around it with a combination of measures and maintain the sort of percentage they want. U of M
Some of them have, yeah.
Now, one of the things at work here that they have to examine is the increasing number of out-of-state students at Michigan and Michigan State.
Sure.
We're now pushing close to 50% to get that higher tuition and more revenue in.
Yeah.
Those tend not to be minority students.
Yeah.
And I think that's another area they need to look at.
All right, and we will be watching to see how that all unfolds. All right, Andy Dillon out, Kevin Clinton in. Dillon resigned as the state treasurer last week, and it's now Clinton's job not only to manage billions of dollars in state money, but he'll be the only one looking at Michigan cities and school districts to see how financially healthy they are. So what do we know about Kevin Clinton? Nolan?
I don't know a whole lot about him. You know, the governor has a lot of faith with him. He started out, you know, in the insurance area for the governor, and he promoted him once. Now he's promoted him twice. So far, Snyder's been a pretty good judge of talent and people he's picked to help him run things. You know, I'm sad to see Andy Dillon go. I thought Andy Dillon was a good treasurer. I thought he handled these financial crises very well. He's been working to keep Wayne County out of emergency manager, but unfortunately his personal life got the better of him, and he had to get out.
Now you have a fresh set of eyes on a lot of these troubled cities and counties, talking about Wayne County. Yeah. What kind of job does he have in front of him?
I think he's got a lot of issues to address. Wayne County is just the sort of tip of that iceberg. You got a lot of local governments that are in a lot of trouble. Far too many to deal with through the emergency management process. You couldn't create enough emergency managers to run all these places. We'd still have to have this real look at the structure of government here. How much local government can we afford, and how can we deliver services maybe in a more efficient way. And one of my frustrations with the governor has been the slow pace of getting to that point. Hopefully, maybe this new treasurer has a different view of that. Maybe a second term, if Snyder wins next year, he'll feel a little more politically comfortable in pushing that issue. But we got a lot of local government problems. There's not enough money to sustain all this stuff.
You know, people would argue that the last couple of years that Andy Dillon has been in office have been possibly the most difficult because of everything he's had to deal with Detroit and the financial emergency there. Would you say that the next couple of years for a treasurer could be the most difficult?
I don't know. I mean, U of M had a study out a couple of weeks ago that said, interviewed local governments, and the larger governments in particular are doing a little better, are starting to feel the effects of a recovering economy. And it very well could be, as the state economy recovers, and it is recovering at a faster pace than the rest of the nation, that a lot of these people that have been sort of on the border of financial distress find themselves out of it. Now, if that happens, they need to use that opportunity to put in place efficiencies, shared services, what have you, to make sure the next downturn they don't end up in the same place. But we went through a huge economic downturn in this state, and it's not surprising we have a lot of communities in distress.
Long road. All right, well, let's talk about really the biggest story that's happening in the state this week. The Tigers. Are they killing you or what? It has been nail-biting
Until
watching
1 o'clock
this.
every night watching these guys just torture us.
Oh, it's been great though, huh? Nolan, you're going to the game tonight?
I am going to the game, and you look at a game like last night and you think, wow, this is the best team in baseball. They can pitch, they can hit, and the pitching has been, at least the starting pitching,
Pitching has been great, right?
The best probably I've ever seen in baseball.
Oh yeah, there's no question this is the best rotation.
And when you look at the hitters you should have on this team, Cabrera and Fielder and Peralta and all, you would think that these are big bats. They're paid to be big bats, and
all year they've struggled
hitting.
hitting good pitching, and that's what kills you in the playoffs because you do not see sloppy pitchers in the postseason.
Oh, I just got to say, I've got a little boy at home, a 7-year-old, who's last year had his heart broken, and this year is like, come on, Tigers. So I'm like, please, we want them to go.
Right?
Get it together. That's right. All right, gentlemen, it's always good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, and that's going to do it for MiWeek. Thanks so much for watching. Go to MiWeek.org for any shows that you might have missed. I'm Christy McDonald. We'll see you next week. Take care.